piece of paper, sticky note, whatever you have nearby. And I am going to describe a shape to you, and you are going to draw it and see what we come up with. Now, the trick to this is I can only use geometric and vague descriptions. Let's see how I do. Okay, I want you to start with a semicircle and maybe make it a long semicircle, maybe more like a U shape. Okay, at the bottom or the open end of your U shape, I would like to see a bunch of small triangles connecting together. Okay, and in the center of your shape that you have now, I hope it's all closed off, I would like to see two circles in the middle of your shape. And in the center of those circles, I'd like to see two dots. And let's see. Oh, we need to have a squiggly line below our circles. Okay, let's hold them up to the camera. I want to see what you came up with. Ah, I see a right side up ghost and an upside down ghost. I love that though. Nice work. So this is just a fun strategy to engage your students, but also to get them working in partnerships, learning to communicate with one another and practice their verbal skills. So let's think about what is engagement. In education, student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion. We share this definition every time because it rings so true for us. And it helps students be excited to show what they are learning. Okay, more than just having their cameras on and having their eyes on the screen, we want them to be truly engaged, have that intrinsic motivation for learning. So as we start to think about hybrid and engagement, our focus is going to be maximizing your time. We haven't had students in person for almost a full year now. So maximizing the time with your new classroom community is the goal. So we want to create an active learning experience and have a variety of formats. There will be whole group time, small group, independent, and partner work. And then we also want to see if we can facilitate any collaboration between your in-person and your virtual group of students. Now, anytime you can build in student choice in the content and product is going to increase that engagement. And as we move into this new setting, you're going to have to scaffold that learning for your students. And then flexibility too. This is new for both you and your students. So recognizing that and leaving some room to change things up as you try something new will be very important. Our original series was Fast and Fabulous, where we focused just on virtual learning strategies. You can still find that slide deck by clicking on any of these images or get a link to the YouTube channel to rewatch those sessions. But we will start a new slide deck here. It will grow just as our last presentation did. And today the focus is going to be all about partner work. And then we will build off of that into some other collaborative settings in a hybrid learning environment. So today we'll share with you describe and draw. That was our opener. Sort and share, one-word summary, and I see, I think, I wonder. So I'm going to get us started with this strategy. I see, I think, I wonder. And this was taken from Harvard Education Department. They came up with this strategy and provided the steps for it. But you would display an image or an artifact for your students. Ask students to consider what they see, think, and wonder. And then students share out in partners. Then you can bring those partners back and facilitate a discussion and record ideas. So why might we use this strategy? It facilitates deeper discussions. It encourages interpretation and inferences. It stimulates curiosity, and it would be great for the beginning of a unit or a lesson. Now, as we think about a hybrid setting, some tools you might use to facilitate this would be having your asynchronous students or your students at home respond on Flipgrid in pairs, using a Jamboard if they're fluent readers and writers, or using a flipped classroom model where you have your students practice this strategy at home, take all their notes and ideas down, and then bring that into the classroom so that they can have their discussion in the classroom together. So let's give this a try. I'm going to share a link to a Jamboard, and we are going to go into breakout rooms very, very briefly. Actually, I don't think we're going to have time for that. So I'm just going to share the link to this Jamboard, and you're going to independently add your ideas. So you can claim a slide by adding a sticky note with your name. And we're going to pause after each question to give you time to focus on just that sense, seeing, thinking, and wondering. So in just a moment, I'll display the photo for you, and then you can add your thoughts to those columns within the Jamboard. Okay, and on the next slide, we have the image for you. What do you see in this photo? And try to restrict your comments to just that sense. Just the tangible details. And then we'll move to the next column. What do you think is going on? So this is the inferencing. And then finally, what does it make you wonder? What questions do you still have? What more information do you need? Okay, so you could see how even this image could be something that you start to use with your students in our virtual setting. Letting them start to conceptualize hybrid learning and what that looks like can help them make that transition. And then they can carry this practice into the hybrid setting, and they could start to formulate these ideas in a Flipgrid or a Jamboard and share ideas with students who are at home. Now, some variations of this could be, when we go back to our slides, thank you, Kathy. Some variations of this could be groups of words or photos. So I took like some phonics words. They all have beginning blends at the beginning. Or for vocabulary, I found images that represent some vocabulary words. And then getting students to start to identify similarities and differences among those photos. You can use math graphs or just a photo from a text or even videos. So there's tons of possibilities, and I'm going to pass this off to Kathy.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, so my second strategy to share with you today is Sort and Share. This is another partner activity that can be scaled up to small groups, much like Rachel's activity. And it's based on, first, breakout rooms, with the idea that this can happen in person, but definitely leveraging the opportunities we have now with breakout rooms. And so in Sort and Share, you will provide students a topic or items, a collection of things that you want them to consider and to sort into categories. Now this is applicable to all content areas, so think equations, think sight words, there's a lot of different applications. But through the partner sharing in this activity, you're going to build those communication and cooperation skills we really want to see with our students. And it helps the students build these ideas in a breakout room before coming back to the whole group where you may dive in a little deeper. So it definitely gives some processing time to your students and really leverages time with each other to build knowledge so that they can maximize the lecture or other information you need students to dive into today. I also like this as a lesson hook or a comprehension check and a vocabulary building activity. And so I have an example for you to try out. And you would click on the link here to dive into it, but I have it open, so I can pop it in if Rachel and Andrea aren't as quick as me. Let's see who wins. Who can click fastest? I feel like that needs to be a competition for our students. There we go. There's our Jamboard. So in this activity, we're a small group, so I'm going to keep us together, but I would absolutely push you out into partner breakout rooms and give you a set of items that you need to sort. And so I'm going to jump over to our Jamboard, and I hope you're all in there as well so you can see some different examples. Here I have something that's definitely based off of science in grade 2, right? We're looking at characteristics of animals, and I'm leaving it open-ended. So I'm asking students to create 3 categories and to classify animals into those 3 categories, and I'm leaving it just there, open, so students have the opportunity to really think divergently, really diving into some higher level thinking potentially. And so they may say, okay, these are carnivores. I'm gonna find all the carnivores, omnivores, and herbivores. Or they may notice that some of the animals are domesticated. So really, as soon as students dive in, they're going to have ideas of their own. I also have an example for phonics, where students can look at patterns in language that you are targeting in your instruction or that are review to start categorizing, in this case, 3 different columns. I chose 3 columns, but you could easily use different graphic organizers, including Venn diagrams, to have students sort. And I really like this math one because there's actually like several number patterns I built into the equations that students would have to solve in order to then sort. And so those are 3 examples of how you could use a sort and share with your students, like 3 different content areas. But in this, your students would give them, I would keep the time short, maybe you say 5 minutes. My students have 5 minutes with their partner in their breakout room where they need to quickly sort all of the items into 3 categories. And you're going to ask your students when they come back to have a student who will report out. If you use consistent partners, they could take turns back and forth, like this time it's your turn to report out, next time I will report out. And I like to say with my students, whenever you have partner work and one partner sharing out, be prepared to provide backup to your partner. You need to be backup for them because sometimes we get stuck and it's really important that we can have each other's backs. And that really helps that, like building in that language with your students that we are supports for each other and it doesn't feel as scary to share out to the whole group what our categorization was, how we classify these items together. So variations to this partner activity using Jamboard and breakout rooms, you could ask your students to, after they sort all their items, to find one more item that they have to add. And they may have to draw it, to write it on a sticky note, or add any picture of another item that fits the categories that they have created. Variations of this, you could have students reverse it. The teacher is going to give 3 categories. I'm going to give you omnivores, herbivores, and carnivores, and you are going to have to create the cards and sort them for this activity. You could also have a partnership, create the sorting activity for another partnership, and they trade their activities and both have to solve. You can also, like I said earlier, use different graphic organizers. This time we're going to use a Venn diagram to sort our items. And in a hybrid scenario, similar to what Rachel was talking about earlier, we could use these common tools, Flipgrid, Jamboard, to involve the students who are at home with the learning that's happening in person so that their contributions still are like happening at the same time. But I also like the idea of flipping this for a flipped classroom setting where students have the ideas ahead of time that you give them the Jamboard as their asynchronous work when they're not with you, and they come to school with their ideas already, and then they're with a partner and they have to negotiate. So they will come with their own ideas, and now they have to negotiate what their final categories are going to be for a partner sort and share. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrea.
All right. My strategy is similar to both of these strategies, but it's a little bit shorter and condensed. text. So the idea here is a one-word summary. And this can be added into any content area to really help students critically think and narrow down whatever it is that they're thinking about. So the idea is that students would work either in breakout rooms or digitally with students at home and students in the classroom. They would each have an assigned role. Either you're the recorder or the reporter, and again, these roles can be flipped and switched. So the idea is that after reading a text, watching a short video, or creating an image from content, students will work together to decide what is one word to be able to describe this. Now again, the word does not have to come directly from the content. The word can be any word that they associate with whatever content they're just looking at. The difference is that now they have to defend it. And they can defend it either in writing, verbally and in whole group setting, or as a recording for others to view later. When students return to the breakout room or from the breakout room into the whole group, this is where they're going to be able to share those ideas and really build some vocabulary and some learning knowledge together. The teacher can either call on a group to share their idea, or even better, call on another group to have to explain the other group's ideas or thinking. This also works really well in partnering out, where maybe I have one idea to summarize my one word, and Rachel has a different idea. But somehow I have to now make sense of Rachel's idea, really stretching my ideas and my thinking around whatever text or content I just worked with. And always the opportunity for all students to be able to record in their writing journals. So let's practice. Today we're going to learn about birds. Who doesn't love a good bird in winter? So we're going to watch this really quick video, and we'll probably only watch 1 minute or 30 seconds of it. Let's see about some birds.
Look, look, up in the air. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's a bird. Hey there, Flappy Birds. Jules here for D News. You've probably seen birds migrating or making short trips for feeding, and you've probably noticed that birds tend to fly in a V shape. There's usually one bird up at the front leading the way, and each successive bird lines up back and to the right or left of the bird in front of it. There are other basic shapes, such as J formations and inverted versions of J and V formations. These groups are actually types of echelon formations, meaning that they line up linearly. V formations have been used extensively, not just by birds, but by military generals. From the earliest days of war, allegedly stemming back to when the Thebans were fighting the Spartans in 4th century BC, all the way to today, the formation is used in sea battles and aerial warfare. Birds, planes, boats, and people all have similar reasons for doing this.
All right, we'll stop right there. You don't need to watch the whole video, but you could see how students could get engaged in a video around whatever content you're thinking of. So now that you watched my real quick 1 minute video about birds, you have one word to summarize what you just heard. Now, I'm your partner today, and you're my partner, so drop your answer in the chat. One word about what you think birds summarized up. I see my partners are very smart today, and the idea that I'm seeing is formation. So now my job is going to be to defend your learning in terms of formation, which means that I also had to be listening to about birds, and because now I'm going to have to share your thought. The other idea could be that we together come up with one idea that we present to our whole entire class. But you could see how this will really help students to dive into content either at home or in a in-person setting. So as I think about birds and formation, I heard V shape, J shape, inverted J, and inverted V. And so that's how birds fly, and sometimes airplanes fly that way too. So I'm now having to defend the idea of formation that was shared from my teammates. This could work as a Flipgrid opportunity for students at home working asynchronously. Everybody's watching the same video, and all students are able to respond and defend each other. Now with short videos added into Flipgrid as well, I could defend each of my students, or I could say today you have to defend 2 learning ideas from a one-word summary. Using a Jamboard could easily work this way as well, where you're typing in ideas, possibly creating word clouds or all the collective ideas, and then I'm going to choose one of those ideas to go deeper in. And the idea of a flipped classroom, where possibly my at-home students are creating the content that then I'm going to be responding to at school. or vice versa. So you could see the one-word summary has a lot of possibilities to bring students together in either a hybrid or a virtual learning opportunity. The way that this can be altered is thinking of additional ideas. How can you take that one-word summary and apply it to all content areas? Or maybe build your one-word summary into possibly a 5-word summary or a 6-word summary. I've even seen this done in terms of a $2 summary. So you have $2 to spend to summarize the content that you just learned about, and every word costs you a penny or a nickel or a dime. And so students are working on actually 2 concepts at the same time, and they don't even know it. So how can you expand your ideas about a one-word summary to fit all of your students' needs? So that is a one-word summary. Hopefully you found some ideas to use either in your virtual classroom or in your hybrid learning, taking some ideas to really help your students partner together and work collaboratively is our goal today. So any opportunity for some last questions? And as always, feel free to reach out if there's ever anything we can do to support you in your classrooms. We are always here to help. That is the end of our session today. We will stick around for questions. If you have any, feel free to unmute yourselves or even drop them in the chat. But we thank you guys for joining us today.